Boy, is Palantir looking good today. Not only do they have a massive new partnership that I'm going to give you all the details on, something really exciting here, but there's also some big updates with institutional ownership and how this makes me feel even better about my Palantir position. So just let me tell you, today is a good day to be a Palantir owner. If you have any amount of Palantir shares, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for future updates. Now, besides the exciting news I'm going to cover, I also want to do this update because, well, we have two groups of people. We have people who are like, give me a Palantir update every single day. We have other people who are like, enough with the Palantir updates. I wanted to update on some major news here, but also I wanted to do this update just to say, I haven't sold, I ain't selling. I rode that entire bloody dip that we've gone through and we're finally inching our way out of it. I rode that whole dip, didn't sell a single share. Every single share I've ever bought, I'm still holding. I've just bought more when the price was lower and now we're riding up and I'm about break even right now with my average share price and where the share is sitting. So I'm sitting pretty. I don't plan on going anywhere. I am still long Palantir. I am still excited about this company. And with that, let's get into the first piece of news here, which is their new exciting partnership. Popping over the computer, we can see Palantir and the Space Force expand their partnership. We are literally living in the future. Palantir and the Space Force expanding their partnership. So it was confirmed today, actually yesterday, it will support the United States Space Force and United States Air Force by providing its software to the critical missions of the Department of the Air Force. This is a firm fixed price award totaling $32.5 million. That's a big old contract that they awarded Palantir. Now, besides just getting this nice big chunk of money, $32.5 million, there's something else exciting about this that we're going to cover in a second. But first, this is what Palantir is going to do. The Department of the Air Force Project Brown Heron will use Palantir to provide the U.S. Air Force senior leadership with a continuously improving operational readiness analytics platform by integrating disparate data sources from across the service. Now, what does that mean? It's basically what Palantir does best. The Air Force has data all over the place in these various silos. It's hard to read. It's hard to make decisions based on all these disparate data sources, separate data sources. Palantir is going to come in, set up their systems, take all that data, integrate it into one system that's much more easy to read, easy to follow. And then with that system, the management of Project Brown Heron is going to be able to make better decisions and probably save costs from their better decision making. And then they're going to have AI that constantly makes the decision making and the system better and better over time. So that's what Palantir is going to do. But this part is what really excited me. Palantir has a long tradition of providing cutting edge technology to the country's armed forces. We know that they have tons of contracts with government agencies. There's at least 13 government agencies that have contracts with Palantir, and the amount of contracts just are expanding every single day. It seems like honestly weekly there's some new contract that's announced that's like 30 million for this, 15 million for that. As a shareholder, I love to see these huge contracts. But it says here, it previously worked with the Space Force in 2020 with a one-year contract to provide a data backbone for the Space Command and Control Modernization Program using its Foundry software. Now, what I love to see about that is they had a year-long contract in 2020, and the Space Force / Air Force was like, hey, this was awesome. Palantir did a good job. Let's hire them for this other operation. What this tells me is Palantir is doing a good job. And the reason I know this is because let's just break this down on a more personal level. Let's say you hire someone to come into your house and remodel a bathroom, and they do an amazing job. 3 years from now, when you want to remodel your kitchen, who you're going to call? It's probably the guy who did an amazing job on your bathroom. Now, let's say you hired someone to remodel your bathroom. They did an okay job. It was fine, nothing to write home about. 3 years later, when you're going to remodel your kitchen, who are you going to call? Probably not the guy who was like, whatever. So in Palantir's case, they came in, helped out the Air Force, they did an awesome job, and then in the future, the Air Force was like, hey, we need to hire Palantir again because they did such a darn good job the first time around. This means to me that not only are they getting these contracts, retaining clients, but they're also picking up new clients and new contracts because they're doing an amazing job at it, which is extremely exciting as a shareholder of this company. Now, there's something else that I want to highlight here, and that is the institutional ownership. There's something really exciting that we can pick up from this data, and this is from NASDAQ.com, and this is the increased and decreased positions of the institutional shareholders. So we can see with the latest filing, there was 505 holders that increased their positions, where there was 141 holders that decreased their positions. What this means is there's 3.6 times more institutional shareholders, let me make that bigger, more institutional shareholders who increased their position than decreased. And of course, these institutional shareholders typically have more access to management, to more data. They have more analysts looking into these kinds of things. So we can't just look at this and be like, oh yeah, that's cool. We have to actually take this into consideration that these big institutions are also bullish on Palantir. And then further on this, of Palantir's largest 60 shareholders, only 12 have trimmed their positions, while 48 of that 60 have increased their positions, which of course is very, very exciting news for me and for Palantir holders and for you. Also, I wanted to announce, if you haven't already been aware, I opened a Patreon account with limited spots. So with this Patreon, you get all sorts of things like buy alerts for my crypto and my stock trades. You get full Discord access on the private Discord. You get all my research notes from videos that I do. You get early access to some videos. You get private live streams occasionally. With these upper tiers, we even do Zoom calls monthly. So there's tons of options there. And I'm really excited about the Patreon and how quickly it's grown so far, but there's limited spots. So you'll want to join sooner than later if you're interested. Also, make sure you grab a free stock with Webull. If you haven't already, get 2 free stocks with a $100 deposit. So let's talk a little bit about what this means for Palantir. Of course, having another contract established is amazing, but it's also, as a holder, as a shareholder, you're kind of like, okay, well, this is just one of like 100 awesome contracts that I've seen in the last year, and that's great. It's amazing that we just keep on seeing additional contracts, and it's just becoming like commonplace that they're landing these huge contracts. So of course, they're growing their government business. We want them to also grow their commercial business because a lot of these institutional shareholders want to see this a little bit more diversified. We don't want to be 100% reliant on the government business. So I'll be interested to see what exactly happens on the commercial side and if they're able to really grow that segment. But we are really seeing with the government side, they're talking with each other and they're like, hey, Palantir is pretty much the best. Let's just go ahead and keep on hiring them for more and more things. So I think like there's just going to be some natural growth there. With the commercial side, remember, they do have a ton of sales folk that are recently hired and about to be hired to focus on this end. And I think we're going to see some massive growth there. And I really hope we also see on the marketing end, Palantir getting just a little bit better at selling themselves and telling the story of Palantir to, your average institutional investor, just to get more understanding of what they do and more excitement around how inherently exciting this company is. And what I find interesting is just a few weeks back, when the share price was dipping hard, there was a lot of negativity around this company. Now, I know most people who are already holding and most people who are watching my videos, you were probably prepared that there could be a sharp sell-off. There could be some sharp dips. I know I was. My very first video Palantir ever, I said, this thing could go down 30, 40% potentially. And we saw a solid dip. But of course, whenever things dip, the crowd is just like, oh, that stock's dipping, that stock now sucks. Something that's really interesting now that they're working their way out of this hole. We're not quite out of the hole, maybe once we get to around $24, $25, we're gonna see a lot more optimism. But already, going from hitting even $17 at one point, now crawling up to the mid-20s, $20 that is, crawling up to the mid-20s, I'm seeing a ton more optimism. If you just search on Google, like Palantir News, almost all the articles are optimistic now, where if you did that 2-3 weeks ago, not the case. They're like, all of them 2-3 weeks ago were like, is Palantir dead? Is it just, general negativity? Now it's like, Palantir better than Tesla, Palantir this, Palantir that. Like, there's a lot of optimism around this company. And I'm excited that people are potentially now understanding a little bit more about this company. But I also wanted to say this just as a warning, where it might not always be quite this rosy. We might see another big dip, but just remember right now and remember why you bought in the first place when there's a big dip. That will help allow you to think a little bit more long-term, have a long-term focus, through those more difficult times, because Palantir still is valued highly. It's not a cheap company right now. Still buying a share in Palantir is betting on a ton of future growth. So we have to remember that we're betting on a ton of future growth at current prices. It's not like we have a price to sales of 5 or something like that. We're still sitting around a price to sales around 40, which is higher than most of their competitors. So it's important to note that we're still highly priced, but this is a long-term position. We do not know what's going to happen in the short run. It could see another dip, but in the long run, as long as they continue the path that they're on, I see an amazing outlook for this company. Now, my price target has not changed with the most recent quarterly earnings. I have been saying, and I am still saying, my target is $33 per share, March 2022. That is my target. As of right now, 1 year target. I think that is totally doable. A lot of people think that is way too low. I think that is optimistic, shows some growth, but it's not like, you know, blindly optimistic. But I think it's doable with the consistent trends and the growth that we're seeing right now. And overall, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it is a good day to be a Palantir holder. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Check out those various offers down in the description, free stocks, join the Patreon before it fills up, do all the things, make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notification bell. So again, thank you for watching. And of course, as always, have a profitable day.